And we can do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben, and today we're talking about a film that might not have been on everyone's radar, but honestly, I think it should be. We're diving into The Bank of Dave 2, The Lone Ranger, Netflix's follow-up to the charming 2023 sleeper hit The Bank of Dave. Now, if you haven't seen the first film, let me give you a quick recap. The Bank of Dave is based on a true-ish story of Dave Fishwick, a self-made millionaire from Burnley who took on the financial elite by setting up a community bank to help small businesses and local people. It was a heartwarming underdog story full of British charm, humour, and good old-fashioned fight against corporate greed. So, does The Bank of Dave 2 live up to its predecessor? Well, let's talk about it and find out. The cast and performances. Rory Kinnear returns as Dave Fishwick, and honestly, he's such a likable character. He's such a likable presence on screen. He brings this everyman quality that makes you root for him almost instantly. Kinnear plays Dave as a bloke who's in way over his head but refuses to back down. A perfect underdog hero. If you've seen Kinnear in Netflix's recent TV series, Fucking Monster, where he plays the Prime Minister, he's a very hard-hitting character there, which is very much opposite to the character he plays here. Both he played brilliantly, but I just thought that I would mention it because it took me a minute to get into focus as, oh, okay, he's this character, which he does perfectly. Joe Hartley is back as his wife Nikki, and she is as warm and supportive as ever. She's also very intelligent in this one. I really like her as the second duo part. She lifts Dave up when he needs help, and she steps in when he also kind of needs someone to prod him a bit more. A great partnership duo. Then we have some new faces with Chrissy Metz, who joins the cast as Jessica, a journalist from New York who comes to Burnley to cover Dave's latest crusade. Metz adds a nice outsider's perspective, reacting to Burnley's quirks while also getting swept up in Dave's passion. I like this character because she's kind of now driving the story through her eyes in parts, and she plays the fish out of water character quite nicely. There are some story beats with her character that I expected to come along, but I didn't mind that they were coming along. I wanted them to happen, if that makes sense. And then let's talk about the villain, Rob Delaney, who plays Carlo Mancini, a sleazy, corrupt, payday loan mogul who represents everything wrong with the financial industry. Delaney has this way of making you despise him, but also enjoy every moment he's on screen. This is a classic villain performance. He's a character that you love to hate. He has smug arrogance that you just want to slap off his face, and for that reason, he's perfect for this role. So when we're talking about the plots and themes, what is The Bank of Dave 2 actually about? And this time, Dave takes on the payday loan industry, those shady high-interest loan companies that prey on people in financial trouble. And while the story is exaggerated, it hits on real issues that are still happening today. The film really leans into the David versus Goliath story, where an everyday guy stands up against big businesses like this and refuses to be intimidated. It's an uplifting message, one that feels especially relevant right now when so many people are struggling with the cost of living. The film doesn't shy away from showing how these companies exploit people, but at the same time it keeps things light and entertaining. One thing I love is how the film knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to be serious, hard-hitting cinema. It's a feel-good, inspiring movie that makes you cheer for the little guy, and sometimes that is exactly what is needed. Tone and execution. Now, is this an Oscar-winning film? No, and that's fine. Not every film has to be high art. Sometimes you just want something that makes you smile, makes you feel good, and reminds you that there's still some good in the world. This film does that in buckets and spades, I think. What a weird term. What a turn of phrase. This film does exactly what you expect it to do. At the same time, it does feel like a Hallmark sort of Christmas movie. The filmmaking itself isn't going to break any boundaries, but for what it is, I think people will be surprised at the quality of it, if that makes sense. If you were going to chuck this in the Hallmark a lot that comes out in 1 year, you'd probably have this right at the top.
Payday lenders.
The humor in this film is also spot on for a British type of humor. The first Bank of Dave had that very British sense of humor, dry, self-deprecating, all of that. The banter between the friends feels very lived in, very real. And I would say, yeah, that's exactly like how some people are with a straight-to-DVD film polish or Hallmark kind of make of it. But putting all that aside, I do want to mention, not to forget, that Def Leppard makes an appearance again in this. And I mean, they were in the first one, so why not have them in the second one? If you're going to make a film about Burnley, you've got to have some classic rock in it, I guess. Their cameo is fun and adds to that feel-good vibe, which I really appreciated. So my final thoughts is this. The Bank of Dave 2, The Lone Ranger, is exactly what you expect it to be. Fun, uplifting, and full of heart. It's not a film that's going to change cinema, but it's one that'll leave you smiling. It's the perfect movie for a cozy night in. And in a time when January movies can be a bit bleak, this is exactly the kind of positive energy we need. I'm going to give it 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5 for pure fun factor.
You got one.
It's entertaining, it's charming, and it leaves you feeling good. For the serious cinephiles, 3 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one.
Because while it's not a groundbreaking film, it does exactly what it sets out to do. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the first film and the second film if you've seen it. I like when films do this thing at the end of the movie. They show you the real life person, and you get to see that again here. So where this film obviously, or films have embellished the story somewhat, it keeps the essence and the core of what happened very real. And you can see that by the casting of the actors in the clips with the real people and what's going on, what they actually did in comparison to what goes on in the movie feels very authentic. So that adds another kind of arrow in its quiver, making this film definitely worth watching. Let me know, are you going to check this out? Have you seen the first one? How do they compare together? But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.